What's up, everybody? I'm Mckenty. This is my second channel, and this is your home for my Twitch highlights and my podcast. So if you like this and you want to see more of that and you want to join the live streams, there's a link to that in the description of this video. And with that out of the way, let's get into it.
What are these heavy metal rockers saying to kids? And why are millions of teenage Americans listening? To find out, we went backstage at this heavy metal concert to meet Iron Maiden. And we went back to school to meet the kids who go to heavy metal concerts, who belong to the heavy metal crowd. After school, Teaneck's heavy metal contingent is hard to miss. Meet Alan.
The virgins.
This is it. This is the hot stuff. For the most part, these kids are not star athletes or straight-A students.
What?
Most
They're
don't
not
belong
star
to any
athletes
high
and
school
straight-A
clubs
students?
Or hang out with the
Could have fooled me.
crowd.
What's amazing is that there's all these like real metal type kids that still look like this now. This is from 1987. There's people that still look like this. Look at his TikTok earring there. He's so trendy.
They spend their afternoons at the record store, flipping through albums, talking metal music with their friends.
They got the nerds.
This motherfucker is 17. Look at this. He looks like he's fucking 40. This guy looks like a fucking 40-year-old forklift driver. He looks like he has a mortgage and a back problem. God, I hope someday I look as grown as this guy.
Like those idiots over there, and they go and play frisbee in the middle of the field.
And it's still the same kind of shit you hear metal nerds now say. Those preps with their multicolored shirts. Funny how the metal people always insist that they don't care about superficial stuff like, you know, the way you dress and how long your hair is and what clique you're in. But then they're like, these queers with their short hair and bright colored shirts, listen to their bullshit. The most judgmental, image-obsessed people who claim that they don't care about image.
Shay Crabtree might be considered a prep and always believed the put-downs from the heavy metal crowd were just a cover.
This is what I've been saying forever. Is like there's this narrative that the preps and the jocks are always fucking with the outcast emo kids and metalheads and stuff, which, you know, sometimes is probably true, but I'd say 99% of the time it's the opposite. These preps, they don't give a fuck about the metal kids. They're just like going to fucking prom or whatever normal kids do and then getting a bunch of shit for it from the metal kids. And they're like, what did I ever do to you? The media basically has flipped this narrative on its head because the people who write movies and TV shows are all angry, resentful, bitter nerds who in their heads are the victims, but in reality, normies don't even give a fuck. Exactly. The bullied outcasts are the worst bullies in my experience. That's exactly right. Preps are too Chad to care. Exactly. They don't give a shit.
People just ignoring them, saying they're heavy metal kids. They need some support. They need some people to inspire them. Some people to look up to.
This girl has adult insight. Exactly. Like, what is wrong with me? How are these kids more mature physically and mentally than me? She has a point here.
There's a group called Motley Crue that's very popular with kids. They have an album that has sold 2 million copies with lyrics like this, quote, "Not a woman, but a whore. I can taste the hate. Well, now I'm killing you. Watch your face turning blue."
Everyone wants to make her the bad guy, but she's got a point. From the chat here, yo, if my kid listened to those lyrics, I'd be like, what the fuck? I would too, and Motley Crue were assholes. God knows what they did to their groupies and fans and stuff like that. I don't think she's wrong.
We asked the kids about that. They say parents pay more attention to the lyrics than they do.
We shouldn't say, like, you know, bad things about what women do, you know, just like putting them down.
And it's the same with songs about Satanism and The kids in Teaneck say they were shocked by the in Bergenfield, the town next door. But they still think it's wrong to blame the music.
This song, you know, it's a song, you're not going to go out and do it. Unless you got real bad problems.
I mean, this is true too. Obviously, listening to the SOD song was not going to make but I think it's also a valid point for a parent to be a little bit concerned about that. If you saw that your kid was listening to a song called I would hope that you would be at least a little bit. And I loved SOD. I loved this song when I was their age. I was obsessed with this album when I was 14, so I get it. But I think you would be a bad parent if you weren't a little bit concerned about that.
Without heavy metal, there would probably be a lot more because
Charles
metal
is 15.
and certain other forms of rock give teenagers something to believe in that they get no place else.
Yeah, I think this is true. There's something to be said for the catharsis that they failed to mention though as well. They didn't fail to mention that. He just talked about that. There's something to mention that for sure. I agree with that.
He never shared his son's devotion to the music, never quite understood as Jay transformed himself into a heavy metal
Is gangster drill rap bad then? I mean, it's definitely not good. Like, is there anybody that thinks that gangster rap, that drill and like trap and shit like that, is there anybody that thinks that's a positive influence on society? I can't imagine that anybody thinks that. And nobody makes the catharsis argument about that. Nobody's like, oh, well, you know, maybe a kid who wants to join a gang is like going to listen to drill and get it out of his system. Nobody makes that argument.
But seriously, I have no objection to what music he likes to listen to. And if
What?
Yes, this is true. Gangster rap promotes violence much more than metal. Yeah, of course. Absolutely. And there is more like actual violence associated with rap for sure.
Would I turn it down? No. I turn it up.
Fuck you, Dad.
Alan's mom tolerates the heavy metal culture.
There's a lot of people that aren't liking that I'm saying that this stuff is a negative influence. Think about this. If you believe that music can have a positive influence on people, which I think we would all agree that it can, it would be intellectually dishonest to think that music can't also have a negative influence, right? I mean, if it has the ability to influence your thoughts and therefore your actions, then that influence has to go both ways, right? It'd be insane to suggest that it can only have a positive influence.
And the music is
Hell yeah, look at that epic mosh pit.
This is called moshing.
What are they listening to?
Crowd.
Does sound like Mr. Bungle.
At times, it looks more like a contact sport. And what about this?
I think this is exactly right. Chief Keef has influenced a million kids to make music and try to get out of their hood, but has also influenced a million kids to pick up a gun and shoot at their ops. I think that's exactly right.
I look at Chief Keef and I have to blame him for a lot of people's deaths.
like who?
Everyone in Chicago, 95%.
Stage diving, a common occurrence at heavy metal concerts all over the country.
I have to admit, when I first saw it, I got scared, but it's not.
I got scared.
It's fun.
We need to find a copy
Still,
of
some counseling groups say heavy metal is
the Punk Rock and Heavy Metal Handbook,
and advocate a tough stance with rules to demetal.
and we definitely need to read this chapter, The Rules to De-Metal Kids. This book needs to be handed out to every parent.
Impose a dress code, tear down posters, and turn off the stereos.
And then I was like, what's so wrong about having the earring? There's nothing wrong with that. Doesn't mean anything, bad about it. Look.
Yes, the number of youths who have picked up guns after listening to gangster rap is non-zero, and that's bad. It is non-zero.
Tipper Gore has written a book for parents in the 80s. We asked her where she thinks parents should draw the line.
I advocate a system where people can make up their own minds according to their own values and their own assessment of where their child is on the developmental spectrum.
Wants to listen.
How many of us are going to go out and suck a wiener tonight after listening to Drug Dealer Friend? Raise your hand. Raise your hand if you're going to go out and suck a dong after listening to Drug Dealer Friend. I know I am. That's the power of music, my friends, to change our lives. We are all going to go out and suck a dong tonight.
Listen to this. Will you let her?
To heavy metal music? I'm not sure. It would depend on what group.
By the way, listen to her answer there. They said, would you let your kids listen to heavy metal music? And she said, I'm not sure. It would depend on what group, which I think is a very reasonable answer. She's not saying that all metal is bad. She's saying, I probably wouldn't be that excited about my kids listening to fucking cock and ball torture and the meat shits, which I think is a reasonable answer.
When the concert was over, we took them backstage. They got autographs from some of the band members. And we got to talk to one of their idols, Maiden's
What is he
Dickinson.
wearing? Jesus, is
We
that
asked
his
him what he says
fucking
when
coat of
critics
many
accuse
colors?
heavy metal.
If you're going to look for examples of bad behavior from metal bands, Iron Maiden is not one of them. They seem like really nice guys, and their lyrics are about military history and fencing. Not too many negative things you can say about Iron Maiden.
Where else can these kids go? They come somewhere and they all feel a sense of, this is our thing.
Imagine a power metal band holding a
From family
fencing sword
breakups
instead of a
to
broadsword.
drugs.
That's right,
And
because
maybe if you listen,
fencing is the sport
you
of
might
gentlemen.
understand a little
Broadswords
what
are
he's
for
trying to go through,
brutes.
And then you might understand.
Neston, this is hostile music, but the music itself isn't what does them harm.
I think the point is talking to these teenagers who are into heavy metal music.
Do movies have the same effect? My grandfather loves cowboy shoot-'em-up movies, but he hates organized crime films. I sometimes wonder why the music was always the focus of this instead of movies. I mean, I have the same criticism of violent movies as I do of music. I mean, I know for sure, like when I was in like 9th grade, I think, or 8th grade when Boys in the Hood came out. which, by the way, is an anti-violence movie. But I know people in my fucking stupid little small town, you know, would go watch that and then like get amped up. You know, they wanted to go be gangsters. Or American History X, which is an anti-racist film. Skinheads watch American History X to get amped up and go be violent, stupid skinheads. So I think media of all kinds can have a positive and negative effect on people. And it seems very dishonest to me to suggest otherwise. Think about how many people join the military after seeing movies that are clearly anti-war. Exactly. People take art in ways that are not how it's intended. And I don't think that's a responsibility of the artist, obviously. I mean, they can't know how people are going to interpret their art. They can't know that if they made an anti-war movie, that people are going to use that as like fuel for war. How could they possibly know that? You know, so I don't think we should hold the artists accountable for that necessarily. Here's another good point. Yes, I remember seeing Wolf of Wall Street with my friends, and they all said how cool it would have been to have Jordan Belfort's life. That's a perfect example of that. Clearly, that movie is not supposed to be an endorsement of his actions or his lifestyle, but it does make it look kind of cool, and people who are looking for that are going to take it that way. Can we hold the filmmakers accountable for that? I don't think so. I don't think we can, but we have to acknowledge that people do take it that way.